Welcome, fellow bookworms, to Tibra's Den. My name is Whitney, and today we have my not so mid month wrap up. It is actually like we're going on to the last week. We have about a week and a half when I'm filming this, so yeah, not quite a mid month wrap up, but I did want to kind of jump on since I haven't been making videos uh, lately and kind of go over what I read so far in the month. And I did actually just film, but it'll probably come up after this video, kind of an update how my mom's surgery went, how my birthday went, and what's kind of been going on. I've been battling allergies really bad. This is the worst time of the year for me. We live in southern New Mexico, and so the monsoons come the end of summer, and of course that causes everything to bloom, and so end of summer into autumn is the worst time of year for me with all the pollens and such. So been struggling and definitely watch the video that's going to be coming out. Keep an eye out for that because I kind of talk about what happened at my mom's that did not help the situation at all. So, but yeah, today we're just going to kind of talk about what I've read so far this month, and not quite as much as I wanted to so far. With the allergies, I've been kind of sleeping a lot, taking naps and such. And so my reading has been a little bit slow, but still got a good chunk read so far. There's three I'm working on, and I think I still have eight more to go. And I think, let's see, we have about 9 days left in the month, so I would have to definitely boogie and get, more than one book read each day. Um, so yeah, we're working on it, but let's go ahead and jump in with the ones that I've already talked about, which were in my Throwback Thursday video. So I read the True Story of the Three Little Pigs. This is a really cute picture book. Absolutely love it. Um, and really glad I picked that one up. So I've already read that one, and I read the next Winnie the Pooh book. So I read the first Winnie the Pooh last month, and then I ended up getting these ones and reading them right away. So we have The House at Pooh Corner, When We Were Very Young and Now We Are Six by A. Milne, and with the illustrations by Ernest H. Shepard. These are full color gift editions, so they had the illustrations by Ernest H. Shepard colored in, and they're still the original illustrations, just colored now. So read these as well. If you're interested in knowing more about these, check out my Throwback Thursday video. And then I also read Matilda by Roald Dahl. So those, like I said, not going to get too much into because I've already talked about them. The next two are I'm going to be talking about in a future video. So if you're interested in either one of these, definitely keep an eye out for that. These are part of my ABC author challenge. So I have my R author, Lucinda Riley, The Orchid House. I will say this is like historical fiction and bit dense, but really did enjoy it overall. And then my other author that I read this month is Harold Shester. I want to say is how you say his name. And this is Nevermore, which is a murder mystery based on um, Edgar Allan Poe and Davy Crockett of all things. Very interesting. Again, kind of dense, kind of hard to get through. But overall, pretty enjoyable. I thought the writing was really good, but wasn't quite for me, which again, I'll talk more about that in my ABC author video. So if you're interested in knowing more, definitely make sure you're subscribed and have the bell notification push so you are notified when that video comes out. Otherwise, just check. That should be out the end of this week into the beginning of next week sometime. So keep an eye out for that. And then when I was at my mom's, I ended up reading A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. This was my first Sarah J. Maas book, and I only gave this a 3 star. Like, I get why everybody loves it and all, but it kind of drug for me. The plot did. The characters were all right. I did kind of like the atmosphere, but it just felt draggy. Like every time something interesting seemed to happen, then it would drag for a while more. And it just wasn't my favorite. I didn't really hook me at all, and I don't really have an interest in carrying on with the series. Um, don't come for me. I know this is beloved by many, and I'm not sure if I will pick up another Sarah J. Maas. The only reason I actually picked this one up was because I found it at the thrift store, and I thought, why not? You know, she's popular. I should give her a try. I tend to kind of shy away from authors and books that are really hyped up because I often find they don't quite live up to the hype. And for as much hype as this got, I was expecting it to be absolutely amazing. And I just kind of found it meh. Like, it was enjoyable, easy to read, but it didn't really hook me and it didn't give me anything that made me more want to continue the series or anything like that, or go out and buy another book, another series of hers or anything. So it got 3 stars, so it was a solid read, but it wasn't really for me. Even though it was by no means bad at all. And then I started Scarlet while I was at my mom's, and I finished it when I got back. So this is book 2 in the Lunar Chronicles by Marissa Meyer, and I really enjoyed book 1. I gave book 1 4 stars. This one I didn't enjoy quite as much as book 1. I thought the transitions between the books was a little bit rough. I really wish the first chapter that had Cinder had been included in Cinder's book, instead of where the author left off in Cinder's book, and then it kind of went into the story. Um, so I did think the transition was a little bit rough, but overall, still really enjoyed this. Didn't enjoy the characters as much as I did in Cinder, but we still got to see some of those characters. And I did like once Scarlet and Cinder kind of teamed up. So I am excited to go into the next one. Hopefully, I'll be able to squeeze it in this month, but it's kind of the last on the list as far as this month goes. But yeah, overall, really still enjoyed this one, and it did get 4 stars just like Cinder did. And I'm still looking forward to continuing the series of this one. So, um, and then alright, I just wanted to jump back in. I am actually recording a different video, and I forgot to mention that I listened to the audiobook of The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. I forget who the narrator is, so I'll include that name here, which I thought the narrator did a good job. So I did want to speak on that really quickly because The Priory of the Orange Tree is one that is pretty popular here on BookTube, and I've heard really good things about. But it is a chunky book. Like, you think the physical, like, paperback copy is 848 pages. So it is a chunky book. But I listened to it via audio because I had a free credit from when I got I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy. I was doing my free trial in order to get that book, and so I had a free credit, and I decided to go with The Priory of the Orange Tree because it's one that, while I was interested in, I wasn't sure I was ever going to pick it up. And I did have a long drive. Well, not long. It's about 5 hour drive to my mom and then 5 hours back. The book is 25 hours, the audiobook. And so, 10 hours of drive time to my mom's and back. And then I did listen to it here and there, listened to it while I went to the store and such the other day and got it finished. So I forgot to mention it because I didn't have it physically in front of me. And I actually thought about it while I was doing this tag. So I wanted to just jump on since I hadn't edited that video yet and talk about that book a little bit. So it is like high political fantasy, and it was a lot. And I don't know how much of my confusion was because I listened to it via audio when that's not my typical format I consume books in. Like, I'm very much a physical reader. It helps me retain information better and everything. I think I still would have been a bit confused physically reading it as well because there is a lot of characters, and you have west and east and south and just jumping around between these locations and these characters. And it took me, I mean, about the whole ride up to my mom's before I finally started grasping stuff a little bit. And So, and even then, like as I was listening, like there was points where I was like, wait, what's going on? Like who who where, what? So I did struggle a little bit, but I grasped it enough. I did get the story, and like I said, I honestly don't know if I read it physically, if I would have had a better grasp on it or not. I probably would have been able to keep the characters straight a little bit better, being able to see their names and having the grounding of a physical book in my hands, so I don't drift off. But I think I still would have been a little bit confused. But and I do think, I mean, I do the compile rating system. And so under writing, I also included narration. So it got pretty solid scores, like pretty high scores all the way across. Writing, I gave it 8. Narration, I gave it 9. I thought the narrator did such a fantastic job. Like she had different voices for different characters, and her voice was really easy to listen to. And I just thought she did a fantastic job. So even though my enjoyment of it and my intrigue and such was a little bit lower just because there was so much information going in and some of the logic didn't really make sense to me, like I didn't really understand why certain things, it still ended up getting a 5 star, and that was listening to an audiobook. So I do understand why people really love this book, and I definitely think it's worth a read. Like it's gonna stick with me um for quite a while, and I might in the future try to get a copy of the physical book and reread it. But listening to it, I thought it was a pretty enjoyable story. I did think like there was so much going on and it did drag a little bit. So by the end of it, I was just ready to be done. Like I was just trying to push through. Probably the last 5 hours, I was like, I'm done with this. Like I don't need more. And I also felt like the kind of ending like battle scene was kind of anticlimactic. Like it didn't feel all that great. But again, I was listening to it audio, so I don't really know. But it just didn't feel like that was such a small portion of the book, and the rest was like building up to that. And then there would just get this tiny portion of this battle. So overall though, like obviously I gave it 5 stars. Like once I broke it down, like it was still a 5 star read for me, or listen, I guess. So yeah, I did just want to jump on and do a little clip talking about that, because I do think it's worth it. You have, like I said, it's political, so you have Sabran and Eid, and there's this nameless one, which is a dragon, um, that has been contained for like 1,000 years, and they think there's ties to the bloodline of Sabran, and that's the reason this dragon is contained. As long as one of her bloodline is always on the throne, the dragon will be contained, which really isn't the case. Um, and you have the Priory of the Orange Tree, which is where Ian is from, and then you have these dragon riders, which you have the fire dragons, which aren't the good dragons, like they're part of the nameless one. They follow him, but then you have the water dragons. And the east is kind of sectioned off by itself, and so they're having to go and try to get them into an alliance in order to defeat the nameless one and help with these fire dragons and such. You also have pirates, and there's this alchemist, which the alchemist kind of got confusing for me when it was his turn. Like I did understand how he tied in and such, but I kind of also felt like he was a little bit unnecessary of a character. I could have done without him, honestly. Like I could see how he could have been kind of written out. But yeah, overall, like even though I was confused through most of the story and still had a little bit confusion at the end, like I said, I thought it was pretty interesting. I do think it could have been shorter, honestly. But I did think it was pretty interesting overall. So definitely worth the read or the listen. Like I said, if you're an audiobook listener, I thought the narrator was fantastic. So I definitely, audio's not my thing, but it was pretty enjoyable overall, and it definitely made the drive go a lot easier. So, but yeah, I just wanted to include this here, and I'll go ahead and that wrap it up with the original video. So, and then for my birthday, I was going to read my Barnes and Noble mystery book, and we'll talk about that in just a second. But it was kind of hard to get into, and it was a lot, and so I wanted something that was a little bit easier to read. So I ended up reading Daughter of the Pirate King for the rest of the day on my birthday, and I think I finished it the next day, and then I jumped into Daughter of the Siren Queen, which is the sequel to it. These are by Trisha Levenseller. And it's just a little duology. These ones, it's hard to say because I like the premise of these and they were super easy to read. They were fun. There were some editing issues though, like that there was one part I don't remember the phrase, but it should have been definite and it was definitely. And there was another part that was kind of the similar situation. It should have been one version of the word and it was a different one. There was a phrase where a whole word was completely left out. So the word it didn't make sense, and then you had to. I was like, oh, it's just missing this word, and then it would make sense. So definitely editing issues, and I really did not like the main character, which made it kind of hard. She is 17, so she's a teenager, but she's very arrogant when she doesn't have the right to be. Like, she's out of the pirate king and she can do all these things, but she ends up getting herself into trouble. She's not quite as good as she thinks she is. Um, so that was kind of like grating on me. Like, I did not enjoy that. All right. I don't know where that came from, but so yeah, so I thought she was a little bit too arrogant and such, but I did enjoy there's kind of a slow burn enemies to lovers romance in here, which I did enjoy. Um and overall, like I thought it was really enjoyable. Like it's pirates, and so it was really fun with that. Some of the logic didn't quite make sense to me, but overall, really fun. Like if you enjoy pirates and such, this is definitely a fun one. Um, it is YA, so it's very kind of simplified writing, but still overall had a really good time with these, even though I didn't like the main character. Some of the other characters I really enjoyed. So these were good ones. So those are the books I've read so far. So that's what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 books so far, which is nothing to sneeze at all. And then I'm in the process of reading these next three books I'm going to talk about. So the first one is the book I opened on my birthday. So this is The Master and Margarita by Mikhail Bulgakov. Bulgakov? Jeez Louise. Let me try that again. So this is The Master and Margarita by Mikhail Bulgakov. And this is actually really interesting. The clues were classic literature, 20th century, and magical realism. So the devil comes to Moscow, and he has some like sidekicks. One of them being this ginormous cat that's like the size of a hog. And so I did read all the forward, the introduction, like the text notes and such, which I'm glad I did because going into it, it is quite confusing at first. And like, it's mainly the devil comes to Moscow, but it does kind of flash back to when Jesus was being crucified. Um, but the names are changed a little bit, so it's not truly following that. Like, it changes the names and whatnot. But so like the second chapter was about that, which I didn't really enjoy that chapter, but I enjoyed the first, and then once I got back into the third. Um, and so it's a lot to take in and it's kind of a bit confusing, but I'm glad I read the introduction and such because it says that it's going to be confusing at first and just to kind of stick through it. And it really is, the premise is interesting. So I'm on page 65. I'm on chapter 6 right now. Um, and yeah, just one, I'm kind of taking my time. So over the next a little over a week, I'm just going to be kind of breaking this down and focusing on the other books and reading a few chapters at a time of this so I don't quite burn myself out reading this one. And then my husband and I are reading The Becoming by Nora Roberts. We just started this not too long ago, and we're a third of the way through. So I'm pretty confident we'll be able to finish this, if not be almost finished, um, with this. But I'm not in too much of a hurry because the other book, the last book in the trilogy, doesn't come out until the end of November. So we're gonna have kind of a lull there, which isn't going to be too bad. But if we don't finish it this month, that's fine because I'm not opposed to dragging it out a little bit. But I think we probably will. We read a few chapters each night, so that's that one. And then because I finally finished Nevermore. I was gonna film this video days ago, but I wanted to finish this one before I did, and it just took me a little bit. So I finished that last night and had a couple hours. So I ended up starting Dance Upon the Air by Nora Roberts. This is the Three Sisters Island trilogy. And I know these are easy reads. I've read them before. I really enjoyed them. So I started this. I'm about 80 pages in. So, and this is 300 and 73 pages. So not a huge book or anything, and they're really easy to read. I've read them before, so I should fly through these ones no problem. And yeah, this one, it's you have Three Sisters Island, which was created by these three witches. Um, and then there's kind of like a curse type thing, and so I don't really remember the curse, but basically now you have these three witches and they each kind of represent a different element. So in this one you have Nell, and her element is air, and so she's on the run from her husband. She faked her death and ended up on Three Sisters Island. And then you have Mia, who has always embraced her gift and she represents fire. And then you have Ripley, who has always shunned her gift and doesn't want anything to do with it, who represents Earth. And then there's another kind of Mia's love interest that represents water. So, yeah, really enjoying rereading this, and we'll continue this one tonight. Probably even finish it and then jump right into the others as well. So, those are the books that I have read so far this month. I definitely, like I said, a little slower than I planned, but I feel like I'm doing pretty well, um, considering, everything with my allergies and my situation at my mom's. I think everything's gone pretty well so far this month. And so that's kind of my not so mid month wrap up because we're way past the mid month point. But yeah, that's kind of my wrap up for now. Definitely stay tuned because the end of the month will be my full wrap up, and I'll talk about the rest of the books I read. Check out my kind of update birthday story time video that will be coming out, and then also keep an eye out for my ABC Author Challenge video, and I'll also be doing a tag video that's going to be coming out soon as well. I'll go ahead and leave you guys here for now. Happy reading, everyone. Bye.